Yeah, y'all gonna stop coming in my live talking about this Victor dude, bro. We hooping this year. Y'all gonna see.
Hi team, today we will be talking about the draft. Yesterday was the second round, but the Spurs traded their pick, as y'all know. So they didn't make a pick yesterday, but they are leaving with a total of 2 lottery picks. And I'll just say right off the bat, I love these picks. Shout out to Spurs Believer for this post. Spurs Nation leaves with the best draft of the night, A+ for both picks. And I think he hit it spot on with that. And you know the Spurs made 2 great picks whenever a majority of Spurs Twitter just agrees with each other. Like, you don't see that often. I'm sure there are still some people who might not know Carter Bryant are not like the pick, but I don't know how you can't like the pick. But before we get into this, I wanted to say, toasting you, pal. If you're in the comment section, you have a week to claim your jersey, so be sure to hit me up in the comment section or however you can so I can get you that jersey. If you don't claim it a week from now, we will have to do the raffle again and give it to someone else, or if you want to give it away, whatever. But if you do want it, be sure to hit me up in the comment section. However, if you don't have social media, give me your phone number so I can get in touch with you and we can get this jersey to you. We're going to get into a Wright interview because I'm curious to see what he has to say. But first, I want to talk a little bit about Carter Bryant. So Carter Bryant is from Arizona. Sean Elliott was very happy with this pick, and I think Carter Bryant is perfect for the Spurs. I didn't know who the Spurs were going to target at 14, and that's because I didn't think Carter Bryant was going to be there at pick number 14. Obviously, we saw what happened last year when we wanted Tijan Salan, and the Hornets took him earlier. I thought it was going to be a similar situation like that. But I mean, I guess they learned their lesson because Tijan Salan was a very project player and it's not really working out for the Hornets right now. I don't want to write him off, but with the Hornets development and kind of where Tijan's at right now, I don't think that's like ideal for the Hornets. So with this, I think Carter Bryant fell in the right position. We know his role was very limited at Arizona, but he was a very good 3-and-D whenever he was on the court. But I don't think he's just your average 3-and-D player. I think he has room for upside on the offensive end, and I think the Spurs can tap into that potential. Watching his defense, he's a really good defender. He knows how to use his length, and this adds another element to the shot blocking because I think that Carter Bryant will be an elite shot blocking wing. Just from watching some of his tape, he's like 6'7", and he has a very long wingspan, so he knows how to use his length. And with this pick, I think he has a very high floor, but he also has a very high ceiling, and so it's really a win-win for the Spurs. But if the Spurs could tap into his potential like they did with Devin Vassell, as we know when Devin Vassell came in the league, he was expected to be a 3-and-D type of player. Now we know he has more shot creation to him, and he doesn't create the most space, but we know he can go get a bucket when he needs to. If the Spurs could do that for Carter Bryant, I think that would be amazing, and he's going to be an elite role player, maybe like a OG Anunoby. I've seen some people compare him to OG, so I think that would be like his ceiling. I even saw Carter Bryant say he would compare himself to former Spur Kawhi if he could tap into that potential. I like the confidence. I don't know about that, but I think this fit is great because he's never going to be overtasked with having to be in a situation where they expect him to be more. Obviously, the Spurs are going to want him to be his best version of himself, but it's different going to the Spurs compared to if he was in like a Tijan Salan position where he goes to the Hornets and they're kind of expecting him to tap into his ceiling maybe in like halfway through year 1 or year 2. He's not going to be forced to have to create for himself. He can kind of fit into the same role he was with at Arizona. Obviously, I would like to see him get more opportunity because he did get limited playing time in Arizona. But perfect situation for Carter Bryant. You just plug him into the team, a nice 3-and-D, and with his upside, he'll have the time to develop under the radar similar to Dylan Harper because we don't need them to be the stars of the team. But it's definitely going to help because they have the potential. But let's go ahead and jump into this interview because I got to see what my glorious GM Brian Wright has to say about this draft. Never once did I doubt Big Bro. Even when I thought he might move the pick, I knew he was going to get something good for it. But let's see what he has to say about this draft class because I love it.
It was good. It was good. Still getting used to this 2-night format, but excited with the outcome, and I think we got 2 great young players to add to the group going forward, and a little surprised, but it ended up being a great night for us.
There's a lot of speculation about people trying to pry that number 2 pick from you. Was there any tempting offers that you had to think about?
I think at this time of year, you have to go through a process, right? Like you have to answer the phone. But I think early on, we knew kind of what we wanted to do and the potential of, the player there. So, we listened to things as it came in, but I think we were pretty locked in.
See, that's exactly what I was thinking as well. I know I'm not Brian Wright, so I don't understand his process completely, but that was kind of my thoughts in a very simple version. I was like, okay, you got the number 2 pick. You know the potential. You don't know when you're going to get another number 2 pick again in the Wemby era. But just doing your due diligence, you have to do it. You have to answer the phone. And I think that's kind of where the speculation of, are the Spurs going to move this pick? Because, people talk, and maybe the Sixers were like, yeah, we're trying to move up, or even the Pelicans or the Nets saying we had talks with the Spurs. But the Spurs knowing internally, like, we're going to take this pick. We're just doing our due diligence and seeing what's on the table, because that's what you have to do. But like you said, they were locked in, and I knew the Spurs were locked in. There was no way they were going to pass up on Dylan Harper, and I'm just glad we have a competent front office.
There's been a lot of talk about position overlap with Dylan and Steph, and just the crowded backcourt. How do you see that shaking out? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think I've said this over the years that like positions in this day and age don't matter as much. We just saw playoffs where
Come on, man. I've been saying it on this channel for a while now. Positionless basketball.
the team that won had a 6'5" wing that guarded the center, right? And you start to put offensive skill sets together and having multiple ball handlers, multiple people that can create, multiple people that can put pressure on the rim and make life easier for other players on the floor. I think that's an advantage, and I think we can do that for all 48 minutes. And so I'm not as concerned about positional overlap and trying to find skills and people that can put us in advantage situations and be able to play off that, and he can definitely do that.
And this is where you being able to take advantage of having a Victor Wembanyama, like Brian Wright just said, putting pressure on the rim for 48 minutes. And then you have Victor Wembanyama out there on the 3-point line or the half-court logo, wherever he shoots the ball from. You take their big man out of the paint and have him run around trying to guard Victor Wembanyama. But then you also have players that can create. So it's like, where do opposing teams' big man or people that can't move their feet, you're not going to be able to play against the Spurs, because it's like there's nowhere for you to guard. You have Harper, Fox, Castle on the court along with Victor Wembanyama bringing you out to the half-court logo. Where are opposing teams going to have their rim protector on the floor? I know people talk about Dylan Harper's jump shot, but him shooting 33% in college is not bad. I think that's only going to improve. Not to mention his catch and shoot 3-point numbers were pretty good. Fox, I think he will have a pretty good shooting season. And maybe that may be optimistic, but those are just my beliefs. Castle, he's going to improve. He's probably the biggest X factor in him playing the 3, because we are going to need him to hit some shots. But like you saw all last season, although there are times where he doesn't shoot as much, he can get streaky from the 3-point line and he can hit a few shots. But I believe that they're going to continue and build their 3-point shooting, along with, if you add a Harrison Barnes at the 4 spot, I think he shot like 43% from 3. Adding a Riley Minix, I think he could be a potential player that can really help the Spurs shooting. And so there are ways to counter the shooting question marks.
You said you were surprised? Is that what you said?
Yeah, a little surprised. We had not at number 2,
Right.
but we had Carter pretty high on our board, and actually tried made some moves to potentially go and get him, and so to get him at 14 was a pleasant surprise for us tonight.
And that's what I mentioned. I thought the Spurs were going to trade that 14 pick and move up and get a Malawak, but it turns out they were targeting Carter Bryant the whole time. And that's where I was thinking, like, it would be nice to get Carter Bryant, but I thought he was going to go way ahead, somewhere in the top 10, and that's what Brian Wright thought as well. And so they tried to move up. That's crazy, but they still landed him at 14. And I don't know if y'all saw, but if you were watching the draft, whenever the 14th pick came around, how fast the Spurs put that pick in. They wanted Carter Bryant the whole time, and man, it's a real blessing that we landed him at 14, because that is my dream pick for 14, and we actually landed it.
What do you like about Carter? Get the possibility of moving up.
Yeah, I think he's super versatile. He's a big wing that we think can guard 4 positions. He spaces the floor well. He's a really good athlete. I think he's a smart young kid, and I think he's got the right character and makeup that we look for. So I think we're excited that he was there. And again, a little surprised, but we think he adds, a new dimension to this team going forward.
How long ago did y'all lock in on Dylan?
Well, we scouted all year, so I think it's been, a bit of a two-player race up at the top, and even dating back to high school, there's some conversation in that. But we didn't necessarily lock in until we knew he had the pick, and then obviously you do the homework. But we knew what type of player he was, and so once we were there, we were pretty confident.
When it came to trading up for Carter, at what point did you realize that you didn't need to do that?
At 13. You never know. And so you're on the phone and you're trying, and, things just kind of break sometimes. So.
Backup big is still a need. You think that can be addressed in free agency? Just what are your thoughts in general about that period?
Yeah, we'll see. It's a fun time in the NBA because all these things happen back to back. So I think we start with the second round tomorrow. And kind of see where things go, and then we'll flow into free agency.
Bro, Brian Wright is so nonchalant and low-key with it. He don't give no information that he doesn't need to. And I respect it. I mean, keep everything in-house. That's the Spurs way, but he follows it to a T. He gave you nothing with that answer. He said, we'll look in free agency, but we're going to see about the second round. And as y'all know, they didn't even make a pick. So I think that's a need that they're obviously going to address. You don't want to have your star player just not have a backup, especially when you're trying to make a playoff run. But I think that's definitely going to get addressed in free agency or via trade, however.
Expect Carter and Harper and somebody in-house.
Yeah, I think we'll get them here and kind of see how everybody's doing and feeling. But that's the hope, yeah.
You mentioned the second round, obviously traded out of that reportedly today. What did you see, or why did you end up making that move?
I think, we weigh each thing out and try to project forward and, how we have our board set up. And so sometimes it makes sense to make some decisions early, and you can always adjust and react accordingly if needed.
Is there a bid you have in mind in free agency? Or is that
He's not giving you. Why would you even ask? He's not going to give you nothing with this.
Can't tell you that, Tom.
I'll tell you.
Was perhaps targeting a big in the draft? Was that on the list?
Also, I don't think I think we've talked about this. We don't ever approach the draft and just trying to fill a need, right? I think there's a lot of ways to build your team out, and the draft is the chance that you get to add someone who you think can fit long term. And so you want to take the long term talent, and you can figure the roster out in terms of immediate fit. In different ways.
Oh man, come on, he's cooking right now. That's also another thing I mentioned. It feels like he's just validating my thoughts. I said, even if you are against the Dylan Harper pick, and I don't remember what video I said this in, but I said it, all right? You take the pick, you take the talent, and you can evaluate that throughout the season. You can see who fits and who doesn't, and then you can make a move accordingly. But during the draft, you just got to take that talent. You don't want to pass up on Dylan Harper.
As you went through this process and learned more about Dylan, was there anything that you learned that surprised you about him and the young man that he is?
He's got a rare confidence with humility. He's a very down-to-earth, simple kid, loves basketball, and after spending time with him throughout the process, you can tell that he knows he's a good basketball player. But he wants to be part of a group. He wants to be part of a team. He's willing to sacrifice. He's willing to work for it. And the more we spent time with him, the more we felt confident in that. And, again, you talk to a lot of people around the kids, these young men, to try to get an understanding of who they are and, what they're about. And he really confirmed that for us when we spent time with them.
You have any conversations with his dad?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, he had to put Ron in check. Nah, I'm just kidding, Ron. If you're watching this, please don't comment nothing crazy in the comment section. But let's see what he had to say about Ron.
Great, because you get some great historical stories, NBA stories. So I don't know how much we told him. We kind of just listened to his stories because they were great, and we had a nice little time together.
Okay.
How much do you see, you have guys like, obviously, Dylan and basketball family as well. How much do you see from guys like that who have that pedigree? How much does it reflect in their own character?
You know what's great is the first time that they're hearing a tough message or the truth about basketball isn't coming from us or coming from the coach. They get that at home. How hard you have to work, what it takes to be great. what it means to sacrifice and be part of something great. Like they get that. And so we're reinforcing something that they've already been taught versus we're trying to teach something for the first time, and we think both have that in space.
Big picture, Ryan, do you feel like everything's coming together like you envisioned it, and where are you now as far as the playoff picture?
I think what we tried to do is just put one foot in front of the other, stay head down, and hopefully we look up someday and we're right where we want to be. But not putting the cart before the horse. We got a lot of work to do over the coming months and coming years. But our hope and goal is to be there as soon as we can be.
Yeah.
To the coaching staff, what can you say about?
And that's they're about to get into the coaching. Don't mean to cut them off, but that's something I admire about the Spurs, taking it one step at a time, even though people try to speed them up when we got Wemby. And they have done an accelerated rebuild to where you look up 2 years later and look at this stacked team that we have for Victor Wembanyama. That was a lot of question marks. Will they be able to put a team around him? Well, look at the team we have now. And they did that without sacrificing the future, without trying to rush in and doing this blockbuster trade. Granted, we got Fox for a really red-hot deal, a steal, but we've done it all at our own pace.
As we can be.
There have been some additions to the coaching staff. What can you say about Sean and Corliss and
Yeah.
what they bring?
Yeah, I think we're really excited about them. That process was a pretty thorough one in terms of analyzing where we could utilize some help and how they both helped us and just their background, their experiences. Both of them have a defensive bend. Both of them are very sharp and serious and hardworking and willing to be part of a team. And so just like we do the background work on players, we do the same on staff and coaches. And so I know we're excited about what they bring to the team, and they're already getting to work and putting long hours in and trying to figure out how we take the next step.
Brian, is it at?
So I don't know much about the assistant coaches. I do know that we got them, and I know their names. But Corliss, or however you say that, I know he was a part of the 04 Pistons. Like you said, he got a defensive bend. And then the Sweeney dude, I know that he was with the Mavericks, and they actually loved him over there. He was a really good coach, and so I think they added two good pieces, two solid assistant coaches. But if y'all know more about them, leave it down below in the comment section.
Not going to be involved in Euro basketball?
I don't want to speak too much to that, but I will say, his rehab process is going well, and we're hopeful for the future.
Yes, sir. So shout out to Brian Wright. Shout out to the draft picks. I just gave y'all all my thoughts on the pick. I think we had probably the best draft of the night, and I know there are many people that would agree with me, but y'all be sure to leave y'all's thoughts down below in the comment section. Until next time, it has been boy Chris, and I'll catch y'all later. I'm out.